Another assault on Russian training ground. Collaboration by the Ukrainian 128th Mountain Assault Brigade and the 15th Separate Artillery Reconnaissance Brigade, Chorny Lis in the south, a Shark UAV observed how GMLRS cluster munitions struck a Russian training ground with military personnel present. A top Russian GRU military intelligence officer was killed near Moscow. Russian Special Forces Colonel Nikita Klenkov was shot dead in his car near Moscow, according to Russian media. The officer, who was deputy head of a military unit, was hit at least 8 times through the driver's window and died on the spot. This is what Sverdlikovo in Russia's Kursk region looks like now. Russian troops are destroying their own towns and villages. Russians are unable to bring the village back under their control, so they are turning it into a scorched earth. They are systematically pelting Sverdlikovo with K-ABs and 120mm mines. A Russian T-90M exploded after being hit. Let's remind you that the T-90 is currently the most modern Russian tank in Ukraine, because the much-praised weapon never appeared on the battlefield. Probably the Russians are afraid of repeating these images. Russian forces attempted to storm on motorcycles near Pokrovsk, but got stuck on the railway and were eliminated. The Russians started using motorcycles and quad bikes in Ukraine because they simply ran out of means of transportation. But it also has its weak side. Unlike the Mad Max army, this type of transport has no protection for soldiers. But the Russian generals don't mind. It's all expendable goods. A TOS-1, a heavy MLRS system destroyed by the 412th Battalion. The TOS-1 is a very powerful thermobaric launcher. German oppositional leader and likely next Chancellor Friedrich Merz says he would give Russia a 24-hour ultimatum to stop bombing civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. If it doesn't do so, he would provide tourists without restrictions to Ukraine.
That's why I want to say to you, Mr. Chancellor, despite the agreement on what you have said here about Ukraine once again, I think it is high time. I think it is high time we critically review whether we really succeeded. To show Putin the limits in the past 2.5 years. Clearly we have not succeeded, and it's getting more difficult for Ukraine each week. I would like to suggest very clearly and explicitly addressing Putin, and I ask you to present this at the European Council tomorrow, saying that we no longer accept that he indiscriminately bombs civilian infrastructures, hospitals, kindergartens, all civilian infrastructure in that country. And if he continues to do so, it will be decided with a broad consensus in Europe that the range limitation for the weapons that Ukraine has will now be lifted. Mr. Chancellor, you are personally responsible too. You are personally responsible with your stance that Ukraine stands against Putin, with one hand tied behind its back. Has to fight. This can't go on. And if Putin doesn't accept this, then the next step must be taken and clearly communicated to him. If he doesn't stop bombing Ukraine's civilian population within 24 hours, then the Bundeswehr must also supply HIMARS Taurus cruise missiles to destroy the supply routes used by this regime to harm and bomb Ukraine's civilian population. You know, I can't shake off the impression that the threats of using tactical nuclear weapons damage the entire West as well. In recent weeks, I've been more and more frequently reminded of the words of an old French philosopher, Michel de Montaigne, who once said, "Fear is the mother of all cruelty." Mr. Chancellor, it's time for you, it's also time for us to overcome our fear of Putin, to stop the cruelty in Ukraine together now. If we don't manage to do it, yes, I see the Social Democrats shaking their heads. I'm just saying, if we don't manage to do it now, then in a few years we will stand here again and blame ourselves. I admit that we misjudged the situation. We misjudged it in 2014. We must not misjudge it again in 2024. If we do that, we'll make ourselves unbelievable in the eyes of history. And we'll pay a high price if we continue to misjudge now. We must ensure with complete clarity and great emphasis that this war in Ukraine ends. And that requires not fear, but determination and justice. Through the joint efforts of the European Union and NATO partners in the normative West, not geographical, but normative West of the region and the world, where we are fortunate to live in peace and freedom. Thank you very much, my colleagues.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.